Thank you, Greg. Can I just invite my panel, please? William Page from Woodville Primary in Richards Plain. Liesel from Blossom Street in Silverton. And Khuselwa Nopote from Sinanjala High School. Writing about his own school days at Harrow, Winston Churchill observed that headmasters have powers at their disposal with which prime ministers have never been invested. And certainly during the course of this morning, I have felt that power in this room, and certainly on stage with our previous speakers. He may have been referring to a school system in a previous time, but his words still ring true if you regard power as influence, which it certainly is. And that's what excites me today, the huge potential influence in the Sanlam Auditorium. You might know by now that principalship fascinates me, mainly because I became a better principal through interaction with other principals. I know how powerful the right principal in the right school can be. It's the confidence you build, the respect you earn, the relationships you nurture, the personality you bring, the insight you gain, and the passion and perseverance that you invest every single day. Why do I keep writing to principals week after week? I'm going on letter number 95 this week. Well, the first letter was in April 2020, when schools did not reopen after the Easter holidays. You remember that day well. Principals were rendered powerless, and all of a sudden, highly effective communication became the most important currency in your school. And it still is. The pandemic required principals to be the clearest voice in the school. Clearer than the president, clearer than social media, clearer than Heart FM. I had to hear it from you. I ask you whether you are still the clearest voice in the school. You can imagine that choosing a topic every week is quite an issue. I'm very careful about what I write, as you should be as principals. Anything you put in writing, you know, can be a problem. So I never send out a letter without it being read by at least 2 of my colleagues, and both of them comment on, and they always have positive comments about what to change, what to add. Be careful of saying that. And I always have Linda who edits my letter and makes sure that there are no grammatical errors. And that's important for everything that you write. It makes a very bad impression if the principal's letter to parents has serious grammatical or spelling mistakes. And we are all writers. Principals are writers every day.
One sec.
And I urge you to keep
working on that. Sorry, I'm having trouble with the connection. Please try again in a moment.
choosing that topic is quite an issue. So how do I do it? Well, firstly, the topic jumps up at me during my weekly meetings with principals and during the reflections we have every Tuesday afternoon, where as 16 coaches we sit around a table in person or online and we speak about our schools and what we need to be doing. So I'm pretty sure that this week my letter will include something about Mr. Nopote, I'm sure. But it's an absolute privilege to be granted access to your office. It's a very special place for us. And we really appreciate being there with you in a one-on-one and listening to the troubles and the challenges and trying to comment on those. I have 3 principals with me, and what is important to me is that a principal is a storyteller. I had a letter as the principal as storyteller. You can go back and read it, but all principals are storytellers. When you stand up in front of your staff, that staff room is a very vulnerable place. You stand up in front of everybody, and it's good to have a story, to have stories to tell from your day. So, in speaking to William, I know that what we were chatting about the other day will become a letter. And it was why? Why did you become a principal? How did it happen? Why did you become a teacher? What happened? So, William, I just want you to share with that the main personalities in making that decision, which I'm sure every one of you have a story on how you became a principal. You know that story. You know it well. You can tell it for the next half an hour. William, just tell yours quickly, please.
Quickly. Good afternoon, everyone. Let me start off by saying that it was never my parents' intention for me to be a teacher. According to my mom, I had to be a civil engineer. And she and my dad had made all the plans for me to become a civil engineer. And, studies and all the rest of it. And UCT coming to my school, Crossy Park High at the time, and talking to us about the requirements of different courses and things. And standing in the foyer at the school, one of my friends came along and said, "Why you want to go do that difficult thing, man? Come with us, we're going to become teachers." And dare I say, the rest is history. My mom wasn't best pleased, but I convinced her, look here, this is the way to go. And then got going, did the studies, started my first job. And Sunday evening before I was to start, my dad came to me and he said the following to me. He said, "Boy, remember one thing. You chose to go to that school. Don't go and complain. Don't go and moan. Go and do your work and earn your money." And that is something that has stuck with me in all my life of being a teacher. In fact, in the other jobs that I did, same thing. You're going there to work, do what you need to do. Then as my career unfolded, my mom stopped me one day and she said, "You're now a teacher for a good many years now. So what is your plan? Do you ever want to be a principal of a school?" So I looked at her for a moment and I said to her, "No, I don't want to be a principal of a school." And then she kind of found it strange, principal of the school, the head, the top guy, whatever you want to call it. And I said to her, "No, I want to be the deputy of the school." "Why do you want to be the deputy of the school?" And I explained that in my experience at school as a learner, I always saw the deputy up front. I always saw the deputy doing the things. He was the one meting out the punishment. He was the one sorting out things at school. He was the one doing whatever. Or she, let me also be fair. And I said to her, "No, I never wanted to be." And then we left the conversation there. Career went on, left teaching for a while, came back again, and then came the opportunity for me to become a deputy of the school. And then she said to me, "Wow, now you've achieved what you set out to do." I said, "Yeah. Now I see that the deputy's job is not that great." But, so I got into it, got to work with my principal, and then he said to me, William, I'm going to retire in a few years' time. Do you see yourself as principal of this school or any other school? And then I said to him, sir, in all honesty, I've never been interested to be principal of a school. And then he said to me something that stuck with me. He said to me, I think you have what it takes to be a principal of a school. And if you want to, I'll give you all the opportunities to learn. And 3 years went by, and he was true to his word. He gave me every opportunity to learn, every question that I had. We sat for hours in his office after school, and he said to me in no uncertain terms, I cannot make promises to you that you'll be the principal of this school, because that's a process that must run its course. But in my opinion, you have what it takes. And life went on. He retired. The position at Woodville came up. And now I have a decision to make. Am I going to apply? Am I not going to apply? And then something that I always tell the teachers at school and anybody else, if you don't apply, you've already excluded yourself. And so I went with that message. I had a conversation with my wife, and then we ordered out, and then she simply said to me, and please don't tell her I said this, put up or shut up. In other words, what she was wanting to say in a very diplomatic way, you're either going to do it, give it your best shot, or you're going to keep quiet and you're going to be the best deputy that you can be. And through that process, we are now 4 years in, and yeah, it's been a great journey, and I must say, I still look forward to getting up in the morning, and still look forward to driving across the gate at Woodville Primary School. So enjoy.
My letter this last week was the path to leadership, and you have explained that perfectly. And it's great to have been able to have such role models in your parents, and in your deputy, in your principal, and in your good wife. Liesel, this is my second year working with Liesel, and she became the principal of Regina Cheney in Athlone on the 1st of April 2020. So she didn't see her staff for a couple of a good few months. So communication was important. But this year, she started as the deputy at Blossom Street, about a kilometre down, less than a kilometre down the road. And what interests me in writing letters is the power of reflection. And I want to know from you, I want you to reflect on how your second year, or your second principalship, has benefited from at least having been a principal. You mentioned earlier about, wouldn't it be nice to be a principal all over again, Greg? And to have all this. Can you just tell us, what's it been like, your second principal?
Good afternoon, everyone. So, in my second year of being a principal at the second school, I've definitely grown in confidence. And the confidence is only grown because I have a better understanding of my roles and responsibility as a principal. And because I understand my role and responsibility much better this time around, I know that I have to bring my A game. And I always have to bring my A game to school. And sometimes, or most times, the letters that you write helps me to find the path to finding my A game. But also in saying all of that and understanding my role and responsibility much better, I also know that it's okay not to know, because sometimes I don't know. And that is where networking helps me. So my networking has got two principals, schools with a similar context as mine, and we network. If I don't know anything, I will contact them. How do you do this? Did you do that? Do you come to this? But I always contact both principals. I need two versions of the same story if it differs. And that also helps me to grow in confidence. And then obviously it is you if I don't know. So yeah, that's my journey.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I always stress the idea of being at your best. And it's very difficult for the school to be at their best if the principal isn't at his or hers. And being at your best is a huge challenge. A huge challenge on a daily basis. Khuselwa, we worked together for a while, a few years ago, And I say Winston Churchill spoke about powerful principles. Here is a powerful principle. You walk into this high school in Joe Slovo, Marconi Beam, and you feel the power emanating from everything that she says. But there are a few things about Sinanjongo High School that I really like. But the one thing that really I would like to stress is the way Khuselwa never says a bad word about her learners. Her learners are tops. Always. She's always so positive. And I want you to share that with us, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. When it comes to the issue of learners, I have a very strong relationship with my kids. 3 values that I've learned in the journey of becoming a principal is the importance of not undermining the kids, ensuring that you communicate every bits and pieces of what's happening in the school, explaining every time why are we doing this. It keeps them on their toes. It makes them to believe in you. Very importantly, and we seldom forget that as leaders, is to give them a chance to share their ideas and listen to them. That is very, very powerful. Thirdly, respecting them the way you respect the teachers. In that way, it's easy for them to respect you. They don't want to disappoint you all the time. They know what is wrong and what is right. They know what you want and don't want. It's easy for them to apologize even by law when they've done something wrong. More than anything else, good people, the best weapon that I've used in that school is trusting them. It's a disadvantaged community area. They don't have a place to study in the evening. I said to them, you do have a space to study. The school is open. Our learners in that school, they arm and disarm the school because I trust them. They are not going to steal. In fact, they are going to assist me to get whatever it has been stolen. So they stay after school and study. I've made arrangements with the police when I live in a town so that police vans are visible. So I'm not afraid to give them the pain of arming the school. So we've got a very strong relationship and they know I love them. But I'm that mother with a tough love. I don't spoil them, I'm very tough, but I love them. In return, that makes me so easy to control the 19-year-old, the 20-year-old. So, honestly, I don't have any disciplinary issues. They know what I want. And I lead by example. Like, for example, if the 12s are absent, when I call 3 or 4 of them when they are being absent, I ask them, how would you feel if I'm absent for 2 days here at school? He answered with me, no, you can't do that. But I said, but you're doing it. So it's a two-way process. If you don't want me to do it, then don't do it. Be here because we need you to be here. So sometimes you just correct the behavior by just getting answers from them. So we've got a in fact, everyone that comes into the school, they're asking, where did you get this type of learners? A good principal, you make the learners. You make them. If you want them to be the top, they'll be the top. Because you just work on their mindset, that's what we're doing. Thank you.
Have you ever heard a principal say, I don't have disciplinary issues? The real, what she's actually saying is, I don't have disciplinary issues I can't handle. So thanks very much for sharing that. William is my favourite principal. And I say that because I went to see him for the first time. He's got a tiny office and there's hardly anything on his walls. Just one thing, and it's not the organogram. It's a copy of my letter on his wall. So I'd like to ask you, each one of you, just is there a letter that stands out for you that you make your own?
Yeah, Paul. Just to keep faith with Keith, there is an organic. Yeah. This letter I received after joining Principal Academy, but let me just go back a few months before. I sat in my first circuit meeting, and I happened to sit next to the principal that was going to retire the next month. And he spoke to me and he said, William, Mr. Page, may I give you a piece of advice? I said, of course, sir, you may. And he said to me the following, he said, manage your school by walking around. You know? Okay. I took it and then I received your letter. And in this letter, you speak about, I did not leave the classroom because I love the learners and so forth, but you outline all the things that this principal was referring to in my mind. And that is why this particular letter resonated with me, because you spoke about being at the gate, welcoming the children, speaking, engaging with the parents, speaking to your colleagues and welcoming them to school, walking with them to their classrooms, being in the classroom with the learners in a very informal way, being on the playground. And that is one of the things that I've taken to heart and that I'm using all the time. And just to give you a simple example of what I'm talking about, on Friday afternoon, just yesterday, just before I left, the foreman came to me and said to me, Mr. Page, I need to speak to you urgently about something, but it can wait till Monday. So I said to him, okay, let's do it Monday morning first thing. And his response was, but we can't do it first thing, sir. You are on your rounds. And I just want to emphasize that I took the letter to heart and I'm implementing it. And I believe that I know more about my school and I get to learn more about what's happening in the school because it's informal and because that's why the letters are there to remind me constantly that this is what I must do.
Thank you, William. If I remember correctly, the letter is called Remind Me Why I Put My Name Forward. Liesel, a favourite one that you remember?
Okay, so I have many, but the one that stands out for me, especially where I am at the moment, is the principal as a supermarket. And so you see the operations, you see the time that school starts, as well as you use the analogy to as a supermarket. What time does the supermarket start? What time does it close? What are the specials? So the special that I have for myself is the beginning of the year, mid-year, end of the term. So now, for example, I'll give you a donut with a small little sign say, I don't know what I'll do without you. You know, that type of thing. Get people coming in, making it warm, friendly, attractive, having highly skilled managers. I talk about my deputy principals and my departmental heads. Make sure they're highly skilled, they're effective, they know what they're doing in the classrooms, they know what's happening in the aisles, put it that way. What tools do we use, as well as using the data trends, what do we do with the data, how can we make us more effective and efficient, and how do we run just a normal school day, as well as just being there, putting up its friendly, smiling face, being open, just allowing everyone to walk in and just making it more comfortable for the learners and for the parents and for the community. So that stands out for me.
Thanks, Liesel. Two things I remember about the principal in me loves the supermarket is that when you're in a supermarket and you have a problem and you want to see the manager, you just have to look at you'll find him. He's there looking at what's happening somewhere. And the other thing I like about a supermarket is when there's a problem, you might be responsible for fruit and veg, but when you're walking down the milk and sugar line, something's on the floor, you don't walk past it. You fix it even though it's not your responsibility. Khuselwa?
For me, Paul, the best letter that had an impact on me is you met her in this school. For the kids, first assembly every year, I thank them for choosing to be the learners at that school. And I showed them that they'll get the best education ever. And I thank them for being so disciplined. Imagine it's the beginning of the year. So I know in return they won't want to work against that. To the staff, I thank them because we have briefings every day because they want that. If they were present, all of them, and thank them on Friday for being so dedicated in their work. So I think I like that letter because as principal we become so busy and forget to acknowledge the people that we work with. Yes. I thank the caretakers, the secretaries. Everyone knows it's a piece of chocolate. Beginning of each term, if you were not upset, 100% attendance, it doesn't go to teachers, everyone that works in the school. There is a team that works for that. So we have to make our home in that school, acknowledge each other. So I think I like it because you matter. Nobody is better than anybody else.
Thank you. I just remind you all that Jenny writes a letter every week too. Her letter is aimed at teachers. And if you're a primary school teacher, every teacher in your school should be getting a copy of that letter. It's so important. The letter to principals, you might share this one with your team, you might keep this one just for yourself. But Jenny's letter should be distributed to every single teacher, every second week. If I can just say for one moment, if I were to share one letter, it's the letter which is called "It's Our School." So I advise principals not to speak about my school, but to speak about our school. And I would love to see teachers speak about my school. Not the principal, but the teachers. It's my school. And that to me is very important. Our professional development is something, it's ours. We own our own professional development. And hopefully we have a school in time where our pupils, our learners, own their own learning. So I just want to make sure that I've said everything I need to say. Just on behalf of the Principal Academy, we write weekly to say that we care, we're there, and we lead the way in backing school leadership and principles in particular as the most critical factor in building a school culture necessary to face the crisis of a lifetime. So my aim is to offer a weekly dose of motivational support, like a vitamin supplement for principals. Vitamin B. Can I ask vitamin B for principals, not for Paul? Can I ask you to come forward and collect the chocolate? Thank you very much.